Hello and welcome to another edition of the Ask Dr. Pickel show, where we help people find answers to chronic conditions and chronic health problems. All right. Well, today we want to talk more about some thyroid issues, especially the topic of Hashimoto's. I had quite a few people ask me about this. They're like, hey, if I have Hashimoto's, how does that affect my thyroid hormones? So I thought this was a really good question. What does this do to the body? And if you get your thyroid hormones tested on your blood, especially what most doctors typically test, why can that show normal or totally different than what I would expect? But I still feel lousy and I have been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, or maybe you haven't been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, or maybe you don't know a lot about Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and that means my immune system is attacking my thyroid gland. Now, again, conventional medicine says we really don't know why that occurs. It's an autoimmune condition. It just happens to some people. I typically feel like there is a reason, but it's something that doesn't show up on typical tests. Is there something affecting the thyroid itself that the immune system is trying to deal with? Usually there's a reason the immune system is attacking you. So I won't go into that as much today, but we're going to go into what happens when Hashimoto's occurs and how does this affect at different levels what occurs with your thyroid hormones and their production. And some of you may know this from past videos or some of the basic information, but let's dive right into this and see what we can do here. All right. So the first place it all starts, everything starts at the brain. All right. So we've got the brain at the top here. Now the brain has to signal the thyroid basically. It's saying, hey, thyroid, the body needs more hormone, the body needs less hormone. That's the first thing that has to do. Now it does that because it gets feedback from the body too, which we'll talk about that. But again, the first thing that has to occur here is the brain sends out TSH, especially an area in the brain called the hypothalamus and the pituitary. The pituitary is where it sends it out, but the hypothalamus sends out another one called TRH, and that stimulates the pituitary. Don't worry about all that. Just know that the brain, when you see TSH, when your doctors are running your thyroid hormone tests, this is the most common thing they look at. They're looking to say, hey, is this high? Is this low? Because if it's high, that means the brain's saying, make more, increase. We don't have enough. If it's low, that's the brain saying, hey, we got way too much thyroid hormone. Slow it down, guys. Decrease production. So, the problem that occurs oftentimes is that a doctor will prescribe thyroid medication based on this TSH number, and that's incorrect. According to textbooks and research, the thyroid hormones have to be looked at, because we're going to talk about why the because here in a second, because TSH can be influenced by things and it can be a kind of a false reading there. All right. So what happens when we release TSH? It goes to the thyroid. So we've got the thyroid gland here, and that thyroid says, okay, hey, we got a message from above, from the boss upstairs. He's saying to make more thyroid hormone. So when the thyroid makes thyroid hormone, it does make both T3 and T4. But the thing is here is it's in different amounts. Not much T3 is made. In fact, when T3 is made, it's usually 10% or less. When T4 is made, which it's always made, it's about 90% plus. So the majority of the hormone that your thyroid makes is called T4. T4 really doesn't do a lot. It's pretty inactive. It has to be turned into this T3. T3 is the active hormone. So, but again, there's reasons for this. So this T3, since it's already in production, it can eventually turn into free T3. And then this T4, somehow we got to turn it into T3. So when we say T4, T3, what does that number mean? The 4 next to the T or the 3 next to the T. That's how many iodine molecules are on there. So, the active form has 3 iodine molecules. The inactive form has 4. So we got to be able to cut off one of those iodine molecules. How do things get cut off in the body at a molecular level? Enzymes. Kind of neat stuff here. So, at least it is to me. Okay, so when we go to T4, what happens is T4 mainly goes to the liver, some to the gut, even a few other areas in the body, and it gets converted to T3. And there's an enzyme there. It actually has a name. It's called 5-deiodinase. Sorry. There we go. Don't worry about that so much. Just know that it's an enzyme there. All right. So now we've got T3, and then this T3, of course, once it's converted, has to go and turn also into free T3, because free T3 is unbound. Let's put it this way. When thyroid hormones travel in your bloodstream, any hormone travels in your bloodstream, it can't just travel around by itself. It just can't float in the bloodstream. It has to be inside of a taxi cab. And these are called globulins. And so again, this is why there's free, because free is outside the taxi cab. Total, when it's like a total T3, total T4, that's inside the taxi cab. That means it's floating around your bloodstream. We want the free T3 form because that eventually is going to be delivered to your cells. So that's where we go next. This free T3, let's put this here. Here's your cell with the nucleus in it. Now the cell has little doorways on it, and these are called receptors. So that T3 has to go to the receptors. And it's like the delivery guy coming and saying, knock, knock, here's your thyroid delivery. And the doors should open, and the thyroid hormone should go into the cell and help to manufacture energy. So very important there. Now, what can go wrong, especially if we have Hashimoto's? So Hashimoto's, again, is an autoimmune condition. Hashimoto's just isn't about my immune system attacking my thyroid. It actually is more of a systemic issue because it's going to create inflammation throughout the body. One of the biggest things known with Hashimoto's is its effect on the gut and the brain. So when we see Hashimoto's occur, this can cause breakdowns in multiple areas here. The first area that can affect is the brain. Let's put a number 1 there. So because Hashimoto's and autoimmune issues go along with inflammation from an immune system standpoint, there's what are called inflammatory cytokines. You don't have to remember that. Just remember these inflammatory agents in the body, they can go up to the brain. And when they get to the brain, they can block the receptors. They can block the feedback loops. They can affect this communication here. So now, number 1, well, let's put it this way. They'll even affect the feedback loop. So our thyroid hormones should be coming back to the brain and saying, hey, we've got this much. And the brain should say, hey, okay, make more, make less. But if you're inflamed, that can block that feedback loop. Number 1, it can mess up the way the brain tells hypothalamus, tells the pituitary gland, hey, make this. And so again, that TRH, thyroid receptor hormone, and then TSH. So then the next thing is now we're getting incorrect signals. this TSH number is now skewed because it's not correct. We aren't getting correct feedback, communication from the brain to the thyroid. So now when the doctor looks at your TSH number, you could be like, gosh, my thyroid hormone, it's so low. I got all the thyroid symptoms. I've got fatigue, constipated, all these symptoms of low thyroid hormone. The doctor looks at your TSH number and he says, oh, it's 0.03. That means you've got too much hormone, Mrs. Jones. Take some away. We're going to decrease your dose, actually, because we think you have too much hormone. All right, which is totally incorrect. So then the person's like, gosh, you're going to decrease it? I'm already this bad? So this is the problem that comes along. And the thing is this TSH number can roller coaster and fluctuate because of this inflammation from Hashimoto's. So then the number 2 site that's affected is the thyroid itself. So if your immune system's attacking your thyroid, now that thyroid gets inflamed. And if the thyroid gets inflamed, now we're not producing thyroid hormone properly. So if your thyroid is attacked quickly, what can happen? Well, number 1, that could cause a big dump of thyroid hormone into your system, or it could cause a major decrease in release. It can go either way. So again, this can affect our T4 and T3 production here. So definitely can affect the thyroid. Now the other thing is, let's go to number 3, is in this conversion. Remember, we've got to convert that T4 hormone to the T3 hormone because we got to convert the inactive to the active. We got to be able to have that T3 so we can actually have metabolism. Now, there's that enzyme there, and that enzyme, number 1, can be affected by deficiencies. Hashimoto's goes along with gut inflammation. If your gut's inflamed, you're not absorbing very well. And if you don't absorb certain nutrients, vitamins, minerals, then this enzyme doesn't work. Also, if there's inflammation, it could affect enzyme activity by decreasing it. So now we decrease the T4 to T3 conversion. All right, we don't want that to happen. So, and then there's another thing that can occur here also. Let's go down to the cell. Number 4, what's the 4th reason here? Well, if you have an autoimmune condition, remember, your body's inflamed. You're in a state of inflammation. It's not just that your thyroid is inflamed. I mean, maybe initially, but over time, that inflammation starts to affect you globally. So now if you're inflamed throughout your body, the cells on your body are like, wait a second here, there's a fire in the house. This can what we call downregulate or impair the receptor responses. So now these doorways where the hormone's supposed to come in, they're going to say, hey, lock the doors, close them. We don't want damage to the cell. So now the doors aren't even working. So when the thyroid hormone comes along to get in the door, it's not happening. So now the hormone doesn't get into the cell, and now we get the effects. So now I get low thyroid symptoms, even though the doctor may say, hey, your TSH and your T4 look perfectly fine. Go on your way. And in fact, this is, we have many patients who have many of these issues. This is these are very common scenarios that we see time and time again. And what's sad is these people that are suffering with these issues, they'll try to adjust their thyroid hormone mainly. You know, their synthetic thyroid hormone that's prescribed by their doctor or endocrinologist. And they'll try to maybe change the dose some, increase it, decrease it. That's not going to work because the problem is not a dosage problem. It's not that you need more hormone always. It's more a factor of inflammation and destruction going on in your body and compromised pathways. So changing thyroid hormone, adding thyroid hormone, not the answer. There's all kinds of, even in alternative medicine, there's all kinds of tricks. Hey, take your thyroid hormone in the morning, take it in the evening, chop it up, take this, take that. That won't even really work. And if it does, it'll be temporary. Anytime you change hormone increase dose, change the way you take it, you can get these little hormone honeymoons, and that may make you feel good temporarily or feel a little better, but in the long run, the underlying issue is still there, and it will come back once the honeymoon's over. So the key is to get to the causative issues, find out what's underneath this and what is actually causing this scenario. Is it the scenario 1, the scenario 2, scenario 3, scenario 4? It doesn't even have to be just one of those. It could be all of them, or it could be just a few, or 1 or 2. It could be any of those. That's why it's so important to get all your thyroid hormones checked and to really find out what is underlying it and what's causing your immune system to attack you in the first place. Because that's where the real dilemma and the real way to find the true cause and deal with it is. And that's what we look at, and that's how people resolve these types of issues, is by going after the cause. All right, well, I hope everybody enjoyed today's information on thyroid hormones and how Hashimoto's affects them. And please don't hesitate to share this information. There's so many people out there with these types of issues. So share us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all these things that we post on. And I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day, and God bless.